The Afro has a luxurious cultural and aesthetic history. Oftentimes seen as divine, Afro textured hair need not do much to achieve this style. In fact, it is literally its embodiment. Because this hair texture has helix formation that allows it to defy gravity growing towards the sun, unmanipulated natural hair organically takes the shape of an afro. The afro, commonly known as the fro, refers to hair of tight curls that forms a full, evenly rounded shape on one's head. The afro is not your typical hairstyle, and to even think of it as simply a style is actually an on the acknowledgement to what it truly symbolizes. It represents a large spectrum of hair textures, people of diverse cultures rooted in similar history, freedom, a way of life, femininity, and masculinity, but somehow simultaneously makes a pretty bold political statement. And as usual, none of this is without controversies. Life in the Motherland, Pre Slavery Era. Laurie Tarps, co writer of the book Hair Story, posited that just about everything about a person's identity could be learned by looking at their hair. In early African civilizations, hairstyle indicated a person's family background, tribe, social status, geographic region, age, and spiritual convictions. One of the most popular references of the fro pre-slavery era is that of the nomads of East Africa. It is said that back in the day, the Somali nomads displayed a custom in which the young men wore their hair in enormous bushes, smoothed out with homemade butters. When the young man becomes older or got married, he would trim the fro somewhat, cease applying butters, and would wear the hair completely natural. Among many different tribes, there is also a cultural understanding that hair, given its close location to the skies, is a conduit for spiritual interaction with God. According to an article published in 2012 entitled Hairdressing in African Culture, the author highlighted that hairdressing in the motherland is always the work of trusted friends or relatives. In addition to the social amiable aspect of the events, it is believed that a hair in the hands of an enemy could become an ingredient in the production of a dangerous charm or medicine that could injure the owner. As a person who grew up in the Caribbean, being a part of the African diaspora, I could recall observing the elders being very skeptical about hair not being disposed of correctly after grooming or braiding. This belief could possibly be the reason for the oral tradition and practice, but that we may never truly know. Anthropologist Sylvia Bone stated that West African communities admired a head full of long, thick hair on a woman. It is believed that this demonstrates the life forces, the multiplying power of profusion, prosperity, a green thumb for bountiful farms, and many healthy children. Another culture that has strong historic ties to the fro is that of the Fijians. It is recorded that people of this culture had a distinctive hairstyle, which was described as a bushy hairstyle that you trim like a hedge. An article published in 1970 by the New York Times documenting Fijian history stated that this hairstyle was traditionally worn universally by both sexes, but this has since changed and now primarily adorns the head of nearly all females. A native stated that achieving a proper puffiness takes careful preparation of the hair with a solution of lime and clay. She also stated that her ancestors utilized wooden combs and for sleeping, a neck supporting rack to maintain the hair overnight. What is very evident is that during this era, the afro was worn with great intention, conviction, and pride. Slavery and the colonization era. The transatlantic slave trade shipped millions from the continent. Following that, the scramble for Africa occurred, leaving the continent colonized. These two significant events within our history caused an astronomical shift in how we perceived ourselves. Our systems of life assimilated by force into that of another man's. What was seen as beautiful was shamed and had to be hidden in order to preserve one's life. The intricate details paid to hair, such as having access and utilizing herbs, oils, hair butters, and other hair care products, were non existent. As such, our ancestors resorted to bacon grease, butter, and kerosene as their moisturizers, conditioners, and shampoos. Out of desperation, they used sheep fleece carding tools to aid in detangling their hair. For almost 400 years, Africans were subjected to abhorrent, dehumanizing conditions, and its effects on every aspect of our lives is still evident today. Many of the horrors experienced are unimaginable, and a lot of the history during this time is still being revealed today. For the parts that were documented, such as shaving of the head and laws prohibiting black women from wearing their hair in public, is not even the tip of the iceberg. Post-slavery, post-colonization era. Afros have frequently been categorized as unprofessional or inappropriate. Susanna Walker, in her book Style and Status, relays the story of Annabel Baker, who in 1943 was told by the dean of the institute that it was disrespectful for her to wear an afro while representing the school at a conference, and that she should be ashamed to wear her hair in its natural state. The pressure for black people to tame their hair existed for both men as it did for women. It was popular at this time to chemically process the hair or to use pressing combs to get rid of the kinks, curls, and coils. The afro has its most popular phase in the 60s, but this hairstyle emerged prior. In fact, it is said that a small group of young black female dancers and jazz singers wore unstraightened hair. At this time, the hairstyle they wore had no name, and when noticed by the press, was commonly referred to as wearing their hair close cropped. Wearing their hair unstraightened expressed their feeling of racial pride. Maxine Craig stated in an article titled The History of Black Hair that around the mid-1960s, similarly motivated students who were civil rights activists at Howard and other historically black colleges stopped straightening their hair, had it short, and allowed it to grow without the use of chemicals. Over time, this close cropped style developed into a large rounded shape worn by both sexes. It created a sense of commonality among its wearers who saw this style as a mark of a person who was willing to take a defiant stand against racial injustices. In the late 1960s, the Black is Beautiful movement, the first of its kind, was recorded. This was a call to end the need to culturally assimilate into white society. This movement, along with the civil rights movement, resulted in a literal reconnection with our hair roots, and the Afro represented this shift and embodiment. As the fro increased in popularity, its association with the Black political movement weakened, and so its capacity to communicate the political commitment declined. With the commercialization of the Afro, it was seen represented on Black hair care products, magazines, book covers, and on television. Through the Afro, the general public grew accustomed to seeing the texture of unstraightened hair as beautiful, and the way was open for the proliferation of unstraightened styles for African Americans and Africans within the diaspora. Today, as we contribute to history, let's be sure to wear our fro with intention, pride, conviction, and confidence, knowing just a little glimpse of its history. If you have made it thus far, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your Afro stories down below, and definitely stay tuned for similar videos. Do stay blessed.